Hi everyone, this is Andres speaking. Here providing to you the test recording of the presentation I gave at last pharmaceutical China in Nanjing last August. I was in fact invited by the pharmaceutical China committee to be one of the keynote speakers at pharmaceutical 2023 in Nanjing, China. This was obviously a great honor, but also a challenge, as this was the first time I was asked to provide a presentation as a keynote speaker. So I have been presenting several times, but really I felt the pressure in doing this presentation as a keynote speaker, because as you could imagine, a keynote speaker should somehow provide a presentation that would influence the audience. So at that time I started by breaking or destroying the ice by telling the audience a little bit about myself, so that it was clear what was the background and expertise I was bringing. So this is my bio. So well, first of all, a little bit of what has been my journey so far. I was born sometime in the 70s. It's actually in 1970 in Milan, in Italy, in Europe. You may know Milan for any of the following three reasons, and you can choose the one that you like more. Personally, I like the history part and the football part. But I was not just born in Milan, but in a special place, I would say, because in the street that you see in the screenshot below, Via Canonica. So this is a screenshot where I taken from Google, where I typed the name of the streets where I actually grew until I was 11. Because if you Google today, Google will tell you that that's Chinatown, and that's in fact the oldest and largest Chinese community in Italy. And also quickly, my professional journey so far with a biostat background, but I always work in the programming field in various type of organization in different places, UK, Italy, UK, and Switzerland, in various locations, as I said, focusing progressively more and more on data standard and data submission to health authorities, and also a bit of application development. Finally, the agenda and what I wanted to present at Pharmaceutical China. So when I was asked to provide a keynote speech, I said, well, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to talk about? And based on my background, I can propose to talk about this and that, choose. And the obvious answer from the committee was, well, something aligned with this year conference theme, something around this and that. But most important, we hope that to hear the topic presented in a creative mode, so that people can get inspired by your presentation. And actually, that's usually what the keynote speech should do. So I accepted the challenge, and I'm here repeating the presentation I did in Nanjing. And this was the agenda, which is actually not really an agenda, but defines some objective things that I like to cover to achieve with the presentation. I wanted actually the audience to imagine for a little while what we look like submitting data to health authorities in 2041. So why 2025? So the reason why 2025 it was because while I was preparing the speech, which was a long journey, which started 3 months before the event, I was by chance finishing reading this book that you can see here in the slide. This is a kind of artificial intelligence for dummies, and that was the time my objective, being exposed as a dummy a bit more to AI concept and terminology. So this book, which I recommend, by the way, reading, it is also a book written by a pioneer technologies and together with a writer of science fiction. Through 10 different stories set in 2041 in various parts of the world, Africa, Asia, one also story set in Shanghai in China. They try to imagine how will AI change our world within the next 20 years. And at the end of each of the story, they introduce somehow in a human readable, understandable way, the AI-like concept or technology that they have covered in the story that you can see here somehow summarized. So if we translate this to our world, to our industry, how you see this submission in 2041? We will have, for example, a viewer with some virtual reality stepping into our offices and working closely with us to see if our drug is really working. Or to the extreme, will today's way of submitting data will become completely obsolete, and there will be an AI taking care of everything, including discussing with the viewer. Or maybe the reviewer will get some support from AI in performing the review, assuring that the sponsor has provided everything needed to confirm safety and efficacy of your product, including checking results and quality of data packages we provide. Or maybe something less visionary, something for which today we already have full technology available, and something that actually other business, including socials, are already making use of. Try to make the same exercise I was saying at the time, in the next days at the conference, because I was also telling the audience to try to get inspired by some of the presentation. Some of the presentations were planned in the program. Presentation that were showing already some of those technology discussed in the book, but actually applied to our business. So I was trying to push people to not lose, and this is the same I do with you, to not lose the train of the opportunity to travel into the future, because there is a real risk to be late, to be without any seat into the train directed to 2041. So let's go back to present. What are we doing today to target the 2041 vision? And what's the purpose of my today? And that's actually the purpose of my speech today. Illustrating some of those new standard initiatives, because our industry really relies on standard, and also what open source initiative we are running today, because collaboration is the key, and what technology is developed through new data standard and open source initiative. So there are already organizations attempting to step into the future. So this is just an example from the CDISC European Interchange last April in Copenhagen. But this is just an example. You may see similar example in future presentation, also in presentation for which already proceeding available. So this is a presentation about kind of initial exercise performed by Novo Nordisk on trying to train a machine learning model. So they trained this machine learning model by using some historical Adam spec from past study to then somehow guess and prepare an initial version of Adam specification for new study that the programmer can modify and finalize. So this of course has some limitation, because of course it only takes into consideration the data structure without knowing, for example, what's the purpose of the study, what are the endpoints, what is, in few words, what is the statistical analysis plan of the study. As I said already, some attempts, many examples, user experience throughout the past, I would say 5-10 years, but today we are still failing submitting good data packages to the health authorities, at least according to the feedback we keep receiving from health authority representatives regularly during public events, for example, PMDA and FDA. Because really, quality is important for the health authority. Quality is important to get your credibility with the reviewer, for example. Quality might be impacted even by a simple mistake or issue. You might think it is irrelevant. This might have an impact actually on your submission and success of your drug, on success of your drug approval, if your data package doesn't satisfy some predefined criteria. For example, as discussed by Travis from Pinnacle 21, now Tara, in the keynote speech that was provided almost 4 years ago at PharmaSag in China. So open source initiative, as I already said, are one of the components of the needed change. For years, there was this misunderstanding that FTA, for example, require using one particular software, SAS, but here in this statement, I don't see any name mentioned. Open source is already a change that is, sorry, I went to the next slide, but as you can see from the slide, this is from the PharmaSoc China. So at the time, I went into the agenda and I classified each title by also looking a little bit at the abstract as they were covering SaaS or other open source software. You can see that there was a clear prevalence of presentation covering open source, such as R, topics, example, use case. And this was the same with the Fuse European Connect conference. Don't make me wrong, open source and open source initiative doesn't mean we'll not use SaaS anymore. It doesn't mean we'll just save money because we'll not pay the SaaS license, for example. Assuming this is true. Open source can be also a project involving SaaS, as I will mention later on. But open source means, first of all, collaboration. Open source is a paradigm change in our industry. The goal of our industry is to develop and hopefully sell medical products, such as drugs, devices, etc. Pharma industry are not making money out of software, so it doesn't matter anymore if Roche share is our library for Adam that might be costed some million of dollars, year of development, number of FTE. It doesn't matter anymore. In reality, it's the other way around. A company, by sharing whatever they develop, in this case Roche, the R package for Adam, by making it available to other companies, this maybe will have be beneficial because other company might improve the package, might fix some bugs, or add even new features. Let's go back to 2023. What are today the obstacles to target the 2041 vision? Where do we have to improve? I listed here some obstacles, but maybe more things that we have to change moving forward. And some of the ongoing initiatives I'm going to introduce now are aimed at addressing some of these problems. A good example are the R pilot initiative, where at the time of the presentation already they already completed 2 out of 4 pilots, but actually also the third pilots have been completed. So this is an initiative of the R consortium. So this pilot aimed to demonstrate that we could create data packages with other software and that get accepted by the FDA, and that we can include in the submission data packages tool that will facilitate the work of the reviewer. This was, for example, the objective of the second pilot, where the data submission package contained also an Airshine application. The pilot demonstrated that with some additional instruction provided in the analysis reviewer guide, the reviewer is capable of installing and use the tool provided by the sponsor in its local environment. This pilot also provided some idea of possible issue and eventually limitation as discussed in a doc webinar, for which you can see here the slide, the link. I'm going to probably skip the next slide with more detail about the Airshine application that was provided with the second pilot, so that I can save a bit of time. But what was about the other 2 components that we'll need to target? We will need to target 2041, so the standard and the current ongoing initiative as CDISC. Let's start with the analysis results standard. So to be not confused with the analysis results metadata part of the defined XML. So this is something different. For me, this is probably the most important missing element, as it will make possible to drive the automation, also not just dataset but also results. So the storage, the access, and the processing of the result, and therefore the reproducibility also of the result. The conceptual model has essentially 2 parts. As the part that defines a set of metadata, so the needed elements to fully describe an analytical output, such as a table, so the source dataset, any filter that you apply, exactly as with the ARM defined, but it has more metadata than ARM, so that we can completely automate through metadata the generation of the analytical output, such as a table, as I said. But also the model has also, in addition to metadata, has also data part. This essentially means we could save results in electronic format, for example, as a SAS dataset, instead of just PDF. It would therefore make our outputs result reusable, because they will not simply sit into a PDF document, which is, by the way, as of now, a format we should still follow when creating analysis output. As I said before, one of the obstacles is the use of an old data exchange format we are still using today in data submission. A format that it worked well so far, but it is a retirement, so the SAS XPT. I'm talking about the SAS XPT. This format, because of some of the reasons mentioned in this slide, is now obsolete and not fitting well with our 2041 objective. The solution might be the CDISC dataset JSON project, which has the objective of defining a new data exchange format fully based on JSON, a fully machine-readable format. Again, this project plans a pilot with the FDA, and if the FDA will succeed in receiving and using this new format, we might in the next year, let's say 5, have to submit data in other formats, and maybe the standard CDISC foundational themselves, mainly SDTM and ADAM, will be positively impacted by that, meaning that they will be not limited anymore by the current SAS XPT limitation. We also need to take a step away from normative standard specification that fully sit on a PDF document. We need to be able to access and inject standard into our organization electronically by, for example, using the API of the CDISC library, that is the official metadata repository of all CDISC standard. We are not completely there, but some standards are already available in the library. And the good thing is that recently CDISC has decided to give the access to the CDISC library open to anyone, not just to CDISC members. There are then a number of ongoing open source initiatives or collaboration that are under the umbrella of the CDISC other project, so the CDISC Open Source Alliance. To just mention some of them, we have, for example, Admiral, an R package to develop ADAM dataset. This is a project initially the collaboration between Roche and GSK. And this is probably the best example of open source initiative that saw participating to the initial webinar, then training, more than 500 people, of which many of them participated in the hackathon. It has already made available a draft version in CRAN, and there are available or under development some sort of sub-package to cover some specific therapeutic needs, such as oncology. Similarly, for SDTM, and that's the most recent initiative that was kicked off, the OAK package, which aimed to provide not just a package to support the SDTM mapping, but also a framework to handle metadata and standard specs repository. The SAS Clinical Standard Toolkit is a recent addition to the COSA project. It's not new. It's one of the attempts of SAS to support CDISC, to generate in particular the fine XML through some metadata, and it's been now made open source, so you can also contribute to the further development of the toolkit. The OpenStudy Builder is probably among all the most ambitious open source project, as it aims to develop an open source tool that once fully implemented, it will make possible the end-to-end consistency all the way from protocol development and CRF design to the creation of the dataset, SDTM ADAM, and the analysis and reporting. There are some use cases through which they have been able to demonstrate how, for example, through the tool, it is also a metadata repository, you can generate study protocol through metadata, and then reuse those same metadata to produce, for example, a case report for. The idea essentially is to be able to write once and read many times. Read many times, sorry. And last but not least, the core project, the CDISC for open rules. This was a concern for many years. The fact that the implementation of conformance rules developed for the foundational CDISC standard by the CDISC teams were essentially mainly under the control of few vendors. And the idea of the core project is to essentially have a single source of truth for all conformance rules, and in a machine-readable format that anyone can access, including vendors within their software. This will assure that rules are consistently implemented, as the vendor, by accessing the core repository, will essentially apply consistently the implementation of the rules. And now some final remarks. So the recommendation here is to follow the revolution, see what the Novartis CEO said, try to be aligned, up to date to the state of the art. Don't be afraid. Join and support the collaboration through the various initiatives I mentioned today. And with that, I reach the end of my presentation. I hope you did enjoy these 30 minutes with me, or less. I hope I was able to inspire you a bit, and that you got to know something new, something you were not aware. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Yeah. So that's it. Here some disclaimer. And if you want, you can also follow me through my blog on the CDISC website.